So a word that kind of hit me is that if I had a bunch of closets all around, in a way you can kind of think of it as a little network of first responders, right? I mean, just the way I look at these things, I'm like, okay, what excites me about the product or what interests me is it's got a battery, it's got a camera. Yeah, I would definitely be getting the 4G, modem live backup. So whatever internet or firewall issue's gone down, switch has gone haywire, this little puppy can give me a pretty good idea of what is going on in the office. Are the lights on? Is there water on the floor? It's pretty cool. So it's kind of like a first responder. You guys call it the Sentry. So, it's kind of what it is essentially, right? So it can supersede other things. Or maybe I'm the IT guy, but I don't have really, no one really cares about me that much. So I don't get the fire alarm or I don't get the other alarms that maybe the building manager might get. So this is like my own way of like, keeping my gear, the IT stuff up and happy. The essential stuff, what you have, I mean, really temperature, humidity. I mean, like I said, maybe a lot of places don't have a humidity problem. So then, day to day, they're not going to sweat the humidity, no pun intended. But yeah, to me, it's just the whole IT game is all about, any kind of information you can get as quick as you can get, as easy as you can get it. And then just having redundancy in any kind of alarming system, and this thing kind of acts as your little, like you guys named it well, it's like Sentry, it's like your lookout, this is your kind of first responder for any issues that might crop up. Even if they're mundane, it'll give you, whatever it might be, a small temperature alarm that's just barely over. Okay. But then at the same time, it can do much more. I mean, really anybody with any valuable local infrastructure. I mean, for as much as stuff is cloud-based, everybody I deal with has something legacy, and it's something legacy that's super important. So that if it, knowing that's not on fire, knowing there's not water on the floor, or just that there's internet up or not, or if the internet's down all the way, but this little guy is up and the camera's like, hey, internet's down, but I'm alive on 4G. I'll be like, okay, good to know. I gotta, check the situation out, see what's going on. So it's like that. I like the alerts, it's pretty, and it doesn't seem to bombard you with them. I was playing with the motion a little bit because, just see what's going on. It just gives you a couple simple, what's going on. Maybe someone in the server room for a minute and they're allowed to, but if not, very cool. I like the product. It was easy to set up, I mean, for sure. But yeah, I would just have it anywhere that there's infrastructure. Almost interchangeable. Is it a big closet? Is it a small server room? Where like, anybody in my business is like, really comes down to how, in my mind or anybody's mind, it's like the quality, right? Is the place air conditioned? Does it have, any of that, any kind, is it nice to work in? Is there enough power? Do you have power problems? So really, like I said, depending on where you're at, I would, like I said, this is the device just kind of, it's your backup, it's like I said, it's not a very big device, but yet it's integrated very simply through your dashboard without having to program anything. I've had to write my own stuff just to, maybe get some alerts out of things. So this comes along and says, hey, I'm going to, be another little eye in the sky. You could have all these little scenarios where you'd really appreciate, for once again, not a lot of extra money, something like a Sentry to say, oh, you lost, visibility to all these, items on this remote network. But wait a minute, the Sentry's up. What's going on? Oh, look, there's still, it's, now it's telling me a live shot of the whole server rack. I see electricity. I see electricity everywhere. So now you've got power. So then maybe now, maybe you have a major router failure. Maybe it is a $5,000, $10,000 router, but it still had a hang up that causes everybody to go down. So maybe someone has to go there and power cycle it. Maybe you have to, travel. So if this little device could at least give me some insight into what's going on, it's a heck of a lot better than being completely blind if you have no other way of seeing into the closet. So at least it gives you a visual, it gives you internet. You could theoretically also have it tied, it's going to have an Ethernet cable as well. So it's going to be able to see into your network a little bit at some level. The number one is if, like I said, if you have some kind of, all our customers will pretty much have 2 internet connections, but still you can have, like I said, that there's that point of failure somewhere along the line that can happen. And like I said, unless they're spending big money and they're not, to like the $5,000 tier firewalls. You know, we're in the 500, you know, maybe $800 tier firewalls, and you're not getting dual power supplies and all this kind of fun stuff on that. So, you know, we do as many batteries as we can and all that. But once again, there's anything can happen, a firmware bunk, whatever. Having this little guy shine on the network, you know, shine on sometimes even a full room of equipment and going, okay, everybody's powered up, everybody's cool, and, or even better, if this guy were up and I have to now direct somebody to go do something, I've got an eyeball on them. So someone can walk in, electricity's good, internet's all goofy. I point them right to a box, say, yeah, no, you got your hands, yeah, pull that cable, like, or hit this button, like. So there's some scenario I'm just thinking of right now where that would come in handy, having that eye in the closet. What do they do now? Right? Are there blind spots, or do they have homebrew stuff, or does their battery tell them maybe it's not, you know, whatever, which, you know, can all work. You can have a hodgepodge of you know, alarms for heat, power, internet. A lot of times though, those things still have points of failure. So like an internet connection could still maybe only have, you know, you maybe have 2 internets, but really only one good firewall, and maybe it's only got one power. So if it goes down, you're totally down. But there's the Sentry still on batteries, still on a 4G backup, able to tell you, hey, you know, it's this place is down. So just having one object where you can say, wait a minute, this thing has all the things you need on its own without worrying about another thing around it to keep it going. So it really is a self-sufficient unit. And there's not many products that are like that, you know, are going to do that. Or if there are even that, they're going to cost a lot of money. And this is now a second set of eyes to the situation. You know, maybe you have a $5,000 router that, you know, you got a 4G stick, but that's still your router and that's an important gear. This is a little more, you know, okay, get on it and, you know, see what's going on. We are completely hands-on. My partner and I and a few others will do wiring and stuff, but we are like a ridiculously little miniaturized, verticalized. We do it all. We're running all their, you know, Office 365 stuff, physical infrastructure, running legacy databases that, you know, some hospitals, we have an animal hospital and they're still hanging on for dear life onto like a 98 system. So like that stuff, that is the stuff that we do need to look at the hardware, and we get reports all the time. So we've written a lot of our own code to kind of keep up with that. But yeah, you want to slap another Sentry, and they even had a failure recently. We had replicant servers. It wasn't a big deal, but you know, just having another, like I said, an eye in the sky would have helped. Or when they do have outages, we're in South Florida, so boom, we get the hurricanes, we get the thunderstorms, we get the power outages. So that's big. So having always another eye in the sky is big, and having it be battery powered, where you're not like, well, wait a minute, if this failed and that failed, then we're not going to get. You're like, no, the Sentry's got it all inside. You know, you don't have to think about this device as being like, well, what would make it fail? You know, other than as long as its hardware is good, you're going to get some reporting from it. So other than a battery, yeah, most people really never want to visit a place again, right? And that's like, you know, if you have equipment out somewhere, unless it has to be, you know, the whole rack being upgraded or something major where maybe there will be a tech going out there anyway, and you're maybe getting new batteries out there and all that. But essentially, yeah, if you've got some kind of remote-ish setup going for somebody, you really, you know, you like I said, you want, as someone managing it, you know, this is a good thing. Like you're like, okay, this little thing will take care of another set of eyes. If this thing's down, then this thing's got a problem, specifically this thing. It's not us, you know, because at this point you're thinking did we not pay the 4G bill or something like that? But otherwise, like I said, you've made it all one device within itself, not a package of devices, not like 3 or 4 things strung together where, like I said, anybody who's usually technical can, but you don't want that for a consumer. Like I said, plus the camera's right there. So now you're like, okay, you're walking through the local citizen to get work done. That's pretty big. To me anyway. If I'm like, hey, we have an eye out there, we have a device that's online and already giving us live video, just have someone come in and you know, do what they got to do. I mean, what's that worth? Well, this thing is not expensive, especially if you think of it as, hey, we're going to have this closet for 5 years at this location for, you know, the foreseeable future. Then it becomes a no-brainer as far as cost. It's pretty small. It's a, you know, price of a computer or a laptop or something. So at that point, it's not, you know, costs shouldn't really be an issue if you're really running, you know, any serious infrastructure that you need to keep an eye on. I mean, if you literally have very little physical presence in a place, or if you do, it's going to be expensive to deal with it. This thing pays for itself pretty much the first day. If anybody ever has to go out for some reason that may, like I said, just walking through something, right? Just think about that. Instead of having somebody, and we've done this, now what would someone maybe do if they're going to help you in a closet or a room even? They're taking like a cell phone video, trying to point stuff. It's crazy shaky. You can't see anything. If there's a Sentry sitting there and I've got a pretty good look, like I said, at some key stuff that anybody, a night watch person, a maintenance person, an admin assistant could go play with and touch and fix. And I see it the whole time without any concerns of internet or power. That's huge. If the problem gets solved in 10 minutes of messing around, well, compared to sending a tech out, there's the thing paying for itself right there. Well, it's definitely an easy to use dashboard. I mean, it's got more data than most folks aren't going to look at the relative humidity of their closet over the course of, unless you're a weather nut, you're not going to essentially, but it's more for the alarms at that point, right? I mean, you might be interested in your trends up and down, maybe if you have very, but I would just think that the usefulness is there. If you really have a problem, if you're actively air conditioning and all that, shouldn't be a problem for most places. But you have it. And then if you need funding, let's say, I would say if you need funding or budgeting and you're like, look, it gets to be 90 degrees at night because you guys are not paying for air conditioning in Houston. Well, then maybe you could go to management with that and say, look, here's what's happening at night. The equipment's getting aged and so it has its value, right? At the moment in time. It was a pretty much a simple experience. I went the easy route. I just plugged it right in for USB power and got it onto Ethernet. And next thing you know, I'm shooting a QR code, and it was pretty seamless. I didn't get to do any deep diving into scheduling any kind of stuff. Like I'm assuming that maybe you could mask off motion for certain times of the day, right? So if there are employees around the closet, it's okay. But past 6 p.m., it's not okay to have a. But as far as just getting it up and going, I probably had it set up from the box to going, minus Wi-Fi, within 5 or 10 minutes, if that, So it's about as simple as you can do. The least amount of things possible you could plug in. I love USB-C. You can't mess that up. No matter which way you rotate that cable, it's going to be the good way for USB-C connector. So I was like, thumbs up for USB-C. Simple stuff like that. But it matters, just to keep it simple for people to, work with it. Worst case scenario, yeah. If I had, and I do this, so there's times where I definitely deal with people that they're not part of the technical crew, but I'm willing to make them touch things, and they're willing to do it. So yeah, no, I could definitely give this to anybody, have them set it up. Yeah, would it get a little more fun with them, having to then log in with my credentials, or maybe I remote something that they log into for as far as the QR code part of it to maybe get the thing online, or better yet, if I were to pre-send it, if I already have the unit deployed and I've done it in the headquarters, and then I just ship it to somebody and this thing has already been deployed, then yeah, they're just going to plug it right in and it's already going. It's on the dashboard. So that would be easy. That's literally just plug it in, please. Thank you very much. If you actually are spending for a lot of cooling, and that's, maybe you're in a market where electricity is not super cheap, and then, yeah, you're like, okay, it's not actually good that the server is now 63 and maybe it's almost that condensation area or something like that. We can lay back, save some money. The server rack's plenty in spec for temperature. So at that point, you're saving money, and then you're not freezing out your employees as they work in there with parkas. I mean, you could almost use it maybe even in a larger, lobby type area overlooking. Maybe you're trying to get a heat map temperature idea of what's going on in an area near doors. Maybe the extra motion and security comes in handy. I mean, I don't know, maybe it has something like that value for a larger place that for the small investment of the device ends up being, a big savings and because of the area involved or something like that.